So over the last few days, there's been a couple of rumours and rumblings about Liverpool's midfield. Who's going to feature, who might necessarily be coming in, who could potentially be going out. And I think it's a really interesting topic at the moment because I don't think that Schlott or anybody at Liverpool currently knows who the best players are to fit his system. Which I think is why when you've had a, was it 14 million euro bid for the likes of Endo, who's what, 32 now? Again, looking as if you could potentially sell him for more than what we brought him in for, Liverpool have rejected that, which, going off historical sort of facts with the likes of your Hendersons and your Fabinhos, who, when they hit a certain age mark, they straight out bring in the cash as quick as they can. I think it's really interesting that with this Endo situation, we haven't had that happen. Now, I've seen a few people online say that that's almost like a statement of intent, like, oh, Liverpool need to figure out what they want. And I think there are aspects of that that are true. But I also think it is purely down to the system that Schlott is wanting to implement, right? Again, we saw it against Betis, and we'll probably see it again against Arsenal later on in the week. The double pivot that they play is so instrumental into how Schlott wants to play, right? So he needs to work out with the players that he's got there who best fits that system. Is it a Wataru Endo? Is it a Stefan Bajcetic? Curtis Jones seemed to fit it very well, but unfortunately looks as if they're going to be injured for a little while. You've also had Trey and Noy come on. Who else you got in there? You've got, you get my point, you've got a whole squad of players to come in, and the likes coming back from internationals like your McAllisters. And is Gravenberch still out away internationally? I'm not 100% sure. But you get my point. There are players there which will, in theory, play that position for Liverpool. So he's got to get an understanding of who he actually wants in that system. Now, what is particularly interesting, and honestly a little bit of a relief, personally, from my perspective, is that Liverpool are looking to actually bring in a midfielder. Now, I know that's not exactly news to anyone, but they're looking at a bloke from Genoa called Morten Friendup. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't heard of him before this video. You probably haven't heard of him before this video. I gave a little bit of a dig online. From what I could see, he's sort of he is that sort of six pivot defensive role. He's 23 years old, Danish international. Obviously playing in the Serie A, so to a decent standard, but he was a part of a very average Genoa team last year, and again, he could be a bit of a diamond in the rough, don't get me wrong, but is that, and this is where it sort of brings me on to the topic of the video, is that the level that Liverpool should be looking for, realistically? If you ask me, it's tough to say, right? Again, I don't want to judge the bloke before I've even seen him, it's a little bit harsh, right? But when you've got the likes of an Ederson at Atalanta, who's available for 40 million euros, who's just won the Europa League and has been instrumental and is a Brazilian international, do you not maybe set your sights a little bit higher if you're trying to win trophies? Or again, I know you've also had the likes of like João Gomez, who's recently gone to PSG. Now, I'm not saying that they're anywhere near that bracket, Liverpool, with just how they spend their funds, but you've gotten to a stage now where you're midway through a pre-season. I appreciate that the manager obviously wants to assess all of his options, but at the same time, Schlott wasn't announced yesterday. He has had a decent amount of time to look at a lot of the players and assess a lot of them at this point. And if he wants to bring in new players, surely it's more beneficial to bring them in as early as possible, right? So they can implement with the team, really absorb the system well that he wants to demonstrate, and just honestly just utilise their potential. So if we just bring up a quick mock-up of the team, as you can see, so we've got obviously Endo Sack here in sort of this double pivot role, right? So presumably this is what he would continue to play should he stay at the club. I think when it comes to Endo in this position, sort of, I mean, you know for a fact he's going to move sort of more down here, McAllister's going to go more up here, and then Szoboszlai is going to attack around here, right? I think with Endo in this role, almost sort of like dropping between these two, like, you know what you're going to get from it. You've seen it in, honestly, in massive games. Like, I just think back to that Carabao Cup final where Endo was absolutely immense for the part he played. He was, honestly, one of the best players on that pitch. So, I think the fear is that you know the defensive solidity that you'll lose if you do get rid of him. And if you were to replace him with the likes of Friendup at Genoa, again, you'd like to think that he can do the same job. Can he do it to the same level? I think remains to be seen. Obviously, not a Premier League proven player, is he? Endo is now technically a Premier League proven player. I know he's not necessarily proven to the heights of what we'd want him to be, but you can't change the fact that he has got experience in there, as well as in the Champions League. Now, due to those factors, I do believe Liverpool will probably just about keep a hold of Endo this summer, but this is where my sort of thoughts potentially come in a little bit of apprehension going into next season with this double pivot, right? So if we just quickly get the boys back into their sort of positions. So obviously this is how you'd think it would possibly line up, right? With these two sort of back here, lovely jubbly. Now, in terms of that double pivot, up and down, back and forth, this bloke can do that wonderfully. I fear that we would struggle as much with Endo. Now, I know you sort of want one to be a little bit more defensively solid and the other to be a little bit more creatively influential, and that is a good balance between those two there. But if you're looking forward, if you're wanting a player in a similar sort of element to Endo that will sit there and give the opportunity for other players to improve and enhance their game by having that solidity behind them, do you maybe risk it with a friend up? I I don't know. I don't know if it would maybe be worth just the change given Endo's age and given the fact that we know what we're going to get from him. Or do you maybe do the thing what most top level clubs would do, buy the new bloke anyway, whether that's an Edison or a friend up, and then assess it afterwards if you think that there's still a place for Endo or not. Like bigger clubs can generally afford to bring in who they want first and then delegate out the ones they don't want. I mean, you could make the argument again with Tyler Morton, right? Like, we've sort of, at least at the stage of recording this video, he's yet to go out anywhere on loan. But is that down to Liverpool genuinely thinking they're going to need him this season? Because, don't get me wrong, I think Tyler Morton's got a great prospect and a great future. But you can't be relying on him when you're fighting on four fronts for different trophies. For me, it seems like an almost a... Endo was always a cheap option when they brought him in. By not relinquishing that this season, it's almost like they're staying par for the course with it. Like they've gone full chips in on, yeah, we're going to keep this cheaper option. And again, I hope it works out. I'm not fully convinced that it will, though. So what do you guys think? You happy going into the new season with Endo as our CDM? Again, I'm not against it, but I feel like it's a little bit of a statement as to where we're at in terms of looking to sign new talent and just a bit of a reluctancy of honestly backing Schlott. But I hope we do. I hope we change that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. And make sure you do subscribe if you are enjoying these videos. Thanks very much for watching.